One thing that really resonated with us is the Rockefeller family itself. They're one of the few families now in their 7th generation of wealth. And the same professionals who advise that family are part of our extended team now. That long-term perspective, it's incredibly relevant for our multi-generational clients.
We recognize genius wherever it exists. And if you're known by the company you keep, we are proud to not only spotlight the women that are part of Rockefeller Capital Management's unique network, but also welcome our brilliant audience members.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Sario, Regional President of Rockefeller Global Family Office's Southeast Region, and welcome back to Genius Loves Company. Everyone has a story to tell, and we're excited to hear those from some of Rockefeller's top private advisors, investors, senior leaders, and women in our broader network about the life and career experiences that got them here and the insights and perspectives they've gained. I'm excited to be joined by Emily Rubin, Managing Director and Private Advisor of the Entrepreneurs Group here at Rockefeller. Emily brings a unique perspective to the wealth management industry, having transitioned from a successful career at McKinsey to take over and modernize her father's 30-year-old practice. Today, she and her team specialize in advising entrepreneurs and business owners, navigating liquidity events and complex financial transitions. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you, Kristen. So happy to be here.
So let's start at the beginning, right at the beginning, which is my favorite place with everybody. Tell me, where did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
Well, I grew up in Rye, New York, and right now I actually live only a few minutes away in Greenwich, Connecticut. But growing up, wealth management was always sort of in the background of my life. My father, Howard Kramer, was a financial advisor, and our dinner table conversations often touched on markets and the importance of being financially responsible. I didn't appreciate it at the time. Looking back, those conversations, they definitely shaped how I thought about money and how I think about it today. But at the same time, my mom went back to school and she became a social worker. She was focused on the elderly. And I grew up hearing her talk about the family she was helping, the realities of aging, and that also stayed with me. And I think that combination of financial responsibility on the one hand and empathy and advocacy on the other, it really impacted me. And in a lot of ways, it really influences how I work with my multi-generational clients and families today. I took a little bit from each of them.
It's interesting. I always say I got the best of both of my parents. So my father, I grew up learning the language just by listening to him talk about kind of wealth management and our business. And then my mom was in theater and the arts. And so I always say I got like the perfect mix of like right brain, left brain. And it sounds like you did too in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
So you talked a little bit about hearing some things and picking some of this up early. Do you have an early memory about money or specific advice that has stuck with you over the years? And also, I'm interested, how did having a father who was a financial advisor shape how you thought about money? You touched on that a little bit, but maybe tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, one of my earliest memories about money is I'd hear my dad on the phone. And he'd be talking to clients. It'd be during important moments in their lives, whether it's retirement, business sales, family changes. So even as a kid, listening from the next room, not really understanding, I could tell they were important conversations. And his voice would get quieter, and there'd be long pauses. They weren't calling to talk about the markets, which was the most interesting part of it. They were calling because something big was happening in their lives, and they needed guidance. Just watching that level of trust and hearing it over the years taught me that money represents security, it represents peace of mind, and especially during times of change. And I think that's the most valuable part of the work that we're doing here. It's being a steady, trusted voice when something important's happening and helping people feel a little more grounded in the middle of it.
It's interesting that you say you noticed what was important just by overhearing those client conversations. It's always amazed me how quickly individuals in your role are called by clients. You're one of the first phone calls, and that's always been a beautiful thing in this business, the importance of what you do. Before we go down that rabbit hole, I do want to shift slightly to your education. So you studied at Wharton for undergrad, and then you earned your MBA from Tuck. So how did those experiences shape your perspective or even prepare you for the career you have today?
I think Wharton and Tuck, they both gave me a broad way of thinking about business, finance, leadership. But I think more importantly, they taught me to ask better questions about what really matters. And that mindset, it shaped my time at McKinsey, and it definitely still shapes how I work today in wealth management, especially when I'm working with entrepreneurs. And many of the decisions that they make is impacting both their companies and their families.
Somebody said to me once, it's actually not about the answer, it's about the question. And
Absolutely.
I've always reflected back on that. What you just said reminded me of that. So after graduating, did you consider going straight into wealth management world with your father, or were you intent on exploring a different path, getting out there, going in a different direction first? How did you do it?
I'd be curious what your answer was too, because it sounds like you're in a similar situation. But honestly, I didn't seriously consider going straight into wealth management at all. Like, not at all. I've never been someone to take the easy path. And it was always important to me to build my own experience, my own perspective, and to push myself. And if I were to come into this work, I wanted to do it with something real to offer. Experience, credibility, something I'd earned on my own. So looking back, having done all of that before, I think that foundation made me a much better advisor. It wasn't something I totally had mapped out, but I'm grateful it worked out the way it did.
And I did something similar. I think the advice I got was go out there and get some world advice. And I think my dad said at the time, you need to get out there and get experience so you have something to talk about. And I thought, oh, now that I look back, I'm like, that was really great advice.
Exactly. How else can you add value?
Exactly. So what was your consulting career at McKinsey like? And what did you learn from that experience that helps you as an advisor today?
I loved McKinsey. It was always complex, important decisions. And the interesting thing about it is you're constantly learning new businesses. So you're getting up to speed quickly, you're pressure testing assumptions, and you're turning complexities into simplicity and trade-offs. So it gives you confidence that you can step into unfamiliar situations and figure things out quickly and add meaningful value. And that's something that really applies to whatever I do today.
Somebody said to me once, what is the niche market at Rockefeller? And the first thing that came to mind was complexity. The most complex a situation is probably our sweet spot. And I'm hearing you say that even in how you started in this world. But with that, what ultimately inspired you to make the leap and join your father's business? And was there really a particular moment when you were like, aha, this is what I want to do? Or did it just come about more naturally?
It's funny that you said aha, because I call it my aha moment. But
we all have to have a few in our life.
But, when I was thinking about leaving McKinsey, I think like my experience there shaped how I thought about what I wanted to do next. And I do remember a specific conversation. I was getting coffee down in the lobby with another friend who was also at McKinsey at the time. And I started talking about wealth management and the opportunity to join my father. And as I talked it through, it really was that aha moment. I realized that I had a really unique opportunity to take those same strategic skills I had learned and apply them in a much more personal way. I had the opportunity to modernize his business and also do work that had a much more personal impact. That conversation was really when it clicked for me. I honestly hadn't really considered it before, and I realized I would be stupid not to take the opportunity and make the most of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, whenever we get an aha moment, we need to take it and run. So they don't come very often, but when they do, I think it's a great opportunity. So you mentioned stepping into this family business. The idea of modernizing it just sounds like a big undertaking. Tell me what those early days were like. Looking back, do you recall any major wins or any major challenges? Talk me through that.
Yeah, it was definitely a big change. One reason it worked is because it was my dad, and he and I are both pretty even-keeled. I don't think it would have worked if it were my mom, honestly.
We have that alike as well. Both my parents are incredible, but I always think there's one personality versus another that we can work with versus just be with.
Yes, exactly.
And I say that from the most loving and wonderful place.
But, when we talk about change, I kind of feel like it was also really good timing. It was a pivotal moment in the industry. He'd been in the business, like you said, 30 years. And it was still very traditional back then. There was barely asset allocation, stocks and bonds. So it created a great opportunity. We stepped back. I could use my strategic thinking and really modernize how we serve clients. We kept what worked. We updated what didn't, introduced structure, processes. I actually got my CFP right away in the first 6 months just to add value and learn new things that I could add to the business very quickly. But looking back, that experience also mirrors what many of my business owner clients go through when transitioning or evolving their family businesses. And you asked about wins. I think the biggest win was how clients responded. As we improved the experience, the business grew meaningfully, mostly through referrals. And, clients felt the difference and told other people. And that was really a win to show that what we were doing was working.
So your experience getting into this business and modernizing this business, it sounds like that may have given you the talking points and the experience to help guide your clients through some of the things going on in their own lives, their own businesses, and give you a foundation to work from. I think that is a fabulous way to get started. After being at your prior firm for decades, what drew you and your team to join Rockefeller? And how has being at Rockefeller changed the way you serve clients?
We were really thoughtful about making a move. What drew us to Rockefeller was that it's very entrepreneurial and nimble, but it also still has the depth and sophistication that our clients need. And one thing that really resonated with us is the Rockefeller family itself. They're one of the few families now in their 7th generation of wealth. And the same professionals who advise that family are part of our extended team now. That long-term perspective, it's incredibly relevant for our multi-generational clients. And being at Rockefeller, it simply expanded what we can do for clients. We're able to go deeper around advanced planning, family office capabilities, and we now have access to really differentiated private investments. And that's particularly important for our entrepreneur clients ahead of liquidity events when timing and coordination really matter.
Well, you've built a great practice, and you've built a practice that's really focused on entrepreneurs, particularly those navigating liquidity events, major life transitions, complexity, as we talked about earlier. And you also work very closely with women clients. What do you enjoy most about these relationships, and what have those experiences taught you about guiding clients in important financial decisions?
What I like most about working with entrepreneurs is how personal the work is. A liquidity event or major transition, for them, it's not just a financial transaction. It's often a total life reset. It can put them in a completely different position than they've been in the past. And the decisions, they're often time sensitive, and they're often one-way doors. So the best way is to really start planning early and before things start moving too fast. And because of that, we focus a lot, as we've talked about a bit, on pre-liquidity planning and really mapping out what our clients need to fund the life that they want, not just, what their number is that they need to sell for. And it's such a relief for them when there's finally a clear plan in place and they get some control over their situation. But working with women is also great. I work with a lot of successful women, and many of them, they're balancing not only their financial goals, but also family dynamics. And they often have the emotional weight of being the steady one for everyone else.
We know absolutely nothing about that at all.
Exactly.
I'm kidding. Everything you were listing, I was like, check,
Yeah.
and then probably 20 things underneath that. So it is a very different relationship and different guidance, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a slightly different tilt, almost consistently. But, they want to plan too, but they want it to be practical, aligned with their values, and also resilient to make sure that they have enough to get through anything that life can throw them.
No matter what, right?
Just through working on all these different types of clients, I think great advice. It's not just about the math. It's about helping someone feel informed and confident, in control, and importantly, making sure they feel like they're fully seen and heard in the process, not just talk past.
Mm-hmm. I love all of that. All great points. And it's very clear to me why you have such deep relationships, not only with your team, but with the individuals and families that you serve. So what sets you and your team apart? What do clients tend to appreciate most?
Well, I think one thing that's a little different about our team, and our clients feel it, is that we've lived all these moments from different sides. None of us went straight into wealth management. My partners, Ken Shapiro and Tom Levackery, they were both entrepreneurs in their prior life. Tom also has an accounting background. And of course, I've been through the transition of a family business and started in consulting. So we all have a bit of a different viewpoint and some value to add. And that combination, I think, it gives us a real understanding of the pressure and the trade-offs that our clients face. And it helps us give advice that's, practical and real when a lot's on the line. It shapes how we show up for clients day to day. We spend a lot of time listening and really understanding the why behind each client's goals. And everything, starts with a very in-depth financial plan. The plan, it becomes our anchor, and it's a filter we use when markets move or life changes. We also have some proprietary processes that we've developed specifically for our founder clients. We have something that we call FTOP, it's Founders Total Wealth Optimization Process, and SELL, which is our Set for Life's liquidity planning process. And both of those processes, they help our clients understand their number, evaluate their options, and make sure that we have the right planning in place early when it can materially improve their outcomes. So, we try to make sure everyone's aligned and nothing slips through the cracks. But the goal is always the same. We want them to know they have an experienced team watching the details, anticipating what's next, and staying close as life changes. We don't want them to feel like they're carrying it all alone.
So we have just spent the last many minutes talking about advice you give to others, but I'm really interested in what advice you've received. So what's the best piece of career advice that anybody has ever given you?
I'm a big planner, a little type A, you might say. But so early on, I tried to map out my entire career and,
How'd that work for you?
Not so well. But it all works out in the end. So, the best advice I got was take a step back and not try to force it. And that each experience builds on the last, even when it doesn't make sense in the moment. And you can't predict what opportunity or what person you'll meet and what's going to shape your path. So I think having a direction is helpful and it matters, but so you have to stay open. You have to work hard, keep learning, trust it, the process. Things are going to come together and it's never going to match your plan.
Somebody told me once that life is not just climbing this ladder. It's like a jungle gym. And you're going to go sideways and up and down and to the other direction and all around. And when I started having that visual in my head about it not just being one direction, it changed my perspective on sometimes we have to take a step to the left or the right to be able to see what's even right in front of us. So that's somewhat what I heard you just saying, but that's really, really great advice. And you're right. You mentioned you tried to lay out your entire career plan at one time. I just try to lay out my entire day, and that never works out. I'm
That's true. That doesn't work either.
If I go to bed at 8 and I get up at this time, maybe I'll get 7 or 8 hours of sleep. That's not working out too well for me on any given day, but I appreciate that you tried to lay out your entire career at one time. You have spoken before about being more introverted early in your career. And I think I've actually been the opposite. I think I was far more extroverted and I have flipped more introverted in the last number of years. So I'm really interested, how did you learn to build trust in relationships in a way that felt authentic to you during this time? And if you could go back and give advice to your younger self, what would you say?
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like when people picture a successful financial advisor, they're thinking of someone who's, extroverted, super smooth talking, picking up clients on the golf course, at cocktail parties. And, that's just not me. It's never been me. That used to totally stress me out. How am I going to get new clients? I'm not that person. But over time, I realized I didn't need to be that person. I built trust leaning into my strengths, which were listening carefully, being very analytical, being super honest with my clients, even when it wasn't the best answer or the advice wasn't easy. And, my relationships, they grew naturally and referrals followed gradually, but they each build on the last. And I learned you could build a lot of trust quietly and just showing up consistently and doing good work. So the advice I would give my younger self if I were able to is don't try to be someone else. If you work hard and let your strengths lead. I feel like one of the most interesting things about this business is that you can be all different people. There is not one mold for success. There are all different types of advisors and there are all different types of clients. And the right client for you are the ones who value how you show up as you. And those are the ones you're meant to work with. So it took me a while to believe that, but it's definitely true.
Well, and that's why it's so easy for us to go back and say, if I could just tell my younger self. But I heard another word that came to mind when you were giving your advice was, authenticity, being your authentic self. And then I really love what you said. It's the first time I've actually heard it in this way, but you said build trust quietly. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to take that away from today. And I look forward to all of our listeners taking that away as well. Finally, I have my favorite question. This is a question we love to ask all of our guests. Where can we find you at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning?
Well, if I'm being good, hopefully I've already done something active. That may depend, though. I may have spent some time with my Bernedoodle Dallas. We were looking at her picture earlier.
Wonderful.
And then I'll either go see family or play a round of golf. And, it would be a great day if I get in all of that, but it's rare. It's a rare occurrence.
That's wonderful. I think what we're doing on Saturday mornings when we're not getting up and ready for work or getting our kids ready for school tells a great story. And it sounds like you're able to take some time for yourself on Saturday, which is really important. Emily, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your incredible story. The work you and your team do is really impactful for your clients. And to our listeners, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Genius Loves Company. To learn more about Rockefeller Capital Management, visit rockco.com or keep up with us on LinkedIn or Instagram. This material was prepared by Rockefeller Capital Management. The views expressed of the hosts and guests in this episode are as of a particular point in time and are subject to change without notice. The views expressed by the speakers are solely their own and may differ from or conflict with those of other divisions in Rockefeller Capital Management. This information was provided for illustrative and educational purposes only. It should not be construed as an investment recommendation, investment advice, an offer of Rockefeller investment advisory or brokerage services, or a projection or illustration of the performance of any particular investment or strategy offered by Rockefeller. Forward-looking statements, including those presented herein, are inherently uncertain, as future events may differ materially from those reflected, and past performance is not a guarantee of future performance.